Welcome to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. I'm your host for this session. I'm Sean.
And I'm Kevin.
And together we're going to talk about a unique problem that you might be having in your sales process and your sales world. This 15 minutes is designed for salespeople, sales managers, and CEOs of the company that are trying to increase their revenue and trying to be more productive in your sales processes. So let's get started. You know, Kevin, I want to make more money.
John, the sky's blue and water's wet. Tell me more.
I have this feeling that a lot of our salespeople, a lot of our sales leaderships, the CFOs that are listening to us, the CEOs that are listening to us, probably have that exact same thought process of, I want sales to produce more. If I'm a salesperson, I want to produce more to provide for my family. I think that that's a common theme for a lot of our listeners is sales needs to do better. And I think we should address this because I think part of the reason is our salespeople too often have become a commodity, which is just paid for by which one is cheaper, as opposed to a trusted advisor or a leader or a sales challenger. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Very fair. And I think you and I have probably had some offline discussions. I think we even presented about this in some of our different keynote speaking together. When you get to becoming a commodity, it's because you haven't done enough in the early sales process to differentiate what we do. Whatever it is, you and I have sold in a lot of different industries, in a lot of different scenarios, up and down value chains, up and down title chains in organizations. But if we're not creating enough differentiation, it's really tough to get a deal across the goal line that's not discounted.
I totally agree. And I tell salespeople that are on my team, in the case of now where I'm a fractional vice president of sales and I have lots of teams, you are an expert at sales. Maybe you're not quite there yet. Maybe we're still on that journey personally, but you're an expert at sales compared to your prospect. And you probably know more about the thing you are selling than they know about that thing that they are buying. That's not always the case, obviously, especially if you are selling a commodity. But if you are selling something that is unique to your company, specific to its capabilities, you definitely know more than that prospect knows. I know we talk about this book a lot. I encourage everybody to read The Challenger Sales. I don't know if I have that exact title correct. I'll put it in the show notes just to make sure I got it right. But you should understand, are you a challenger? In other words, are you a leader? Are you leading your prospect through the process of buying? And are you adding great value in that relationship? Because every day you sell your product, your thing, whatever that is, every day, 5 days a week, maybe 7 days a week, your prospect may have not ever bought that product before. Or if they did, they haven't bought it in a while, or they definitely don't do it full time. You are an expert at your problem that you solve. You need to help your client get through that process. And by doing that, you will drive more value in yourself. And therefore, price may not be an issue as much. And you can make more money.
Absolutely. Make more money, have more fun. But hey, for the salespeople, I'm talking to you. You are not a commodity. Your product is not a commodity. Even if it's traded on the commodities index, it is not a commodity because you and your company have unique values. If you're running EOS, you have your 3 uniques. If you're running a different type of system, you have something that makes your business, your mission, vision, values, market commitment, guarantee, something about your business is different. Otherwise, you would either be gobbled up by your competition or you would be the only game in town. And it's very rare that anybody that we work with is the only game in town. We're not dealing in precious metals that are only available at one spot. If you've never done this, Mr. and Mrs. Salesperson, listen to this. First, you are not a commodity. Second, what makes you different? You've got to resonate personally and interpersonally, but then you got to differentiate. We talked about the RAIN group before. That differentiation step is really key to understand that when you are differentiating, you are creating separation. I like to say in sales environments, what makes me different is why people pay me. People pay me because, now if they say they pay you although, that means you've got some relationship to work to do. But people pay you because in the world full of You just think grocery stores. There's a lot of different grocery stores. They're on nearly every corner. Why do you shop at the one you shop at? It's because they have differentiated some way, somehow, to gain and earn and keep your business. The third part of the RAIN group is to substantiate. That's how you prove it. That's your proof points, your guarantees, those kind of things. Salespeople, you are not a commodity. Don't act like one.
We had Kelly on. She talked about that. And if you haven't listened to Kelly's podcast, please go back, listen to it. It's a great podcast. We had to break it up into 2 episodes because we just couldn't cover everything we wanted to talk about. But we also recently had Jim Hardwick on, who is also kind of in our same world. And he talked about servant leadership. And he talked about the ability of how can you help your prospect be successful? What can you do for them? Maybe he said this offline, and I got to be careful here. When have you ever helped your client, your prospect, find a new customer for themselves? When did you add value to their world that didn't help you at all? That is when you know that you are starting to become more than just the salesperson that walks in the door and hands out business cards. And now you are the person that shows up and is a valuable part of the extended ecosystem of the prospect. And they respect your opinion, they respect what you're talking about. And by that very nature, they respect the company you work for and the product you sell. I challenge salespeople to think about how can you help your prospect be successful, even if it doesn't help you sell your product. Just a great way to say, I'm not a commodity. I am here to be your helper, to help you be successful.
It's fun to think about helping people achieve success on their terms. That's leading with the servant part. Jim Hardwick, I think he would say that or echo that entirely. But how do we relate that back to I want more money? And if I'm a COO, we talked to a lot of those, or CFOs, there's a lot of C-suite members that have these different versions of I want more money. The top line, gross profit, operating income, net income, price per share, all those different I want more of this. When we think about how we drive the more statement, we think about early in the sales process. Before we've ever proposed or done a final scoping, if we're doing initial scoping, this is where that work happens. We don't devalue ourselves by quoting too early. Working with a client, this has been a couple of years ago, where we really wanted the business. Internally, we had identified them as a strategic account. So they were a named account. And we had gotten a meeting with a person who had budget authority. So we're starting to check the different boxes in our qualifications process. And we started to create a scope that we thought that they were going to buy. Note the phrase there. We created a scope that we thought they wanted to buy. We were wrong. We went in with a number too early, and by proposing too early, not only did we miss-scope their project, we had to then backtrack and figure out what exactly we could do within our budget now, not their budget, our budget, to serve their needs. Getting ourselves out of our own way strategically is important. We don't want to devalue the I want more statement proposing too early. Just a quick tip for all you sales leaders and salespeople out there. If you really want to propose, take a breath. If you don't know what you're proposing, you don't know the budget, you don't know their outcomes, how they're measuring value for what you're proposing, hint, you're probably too early.
I agree. There was a commercial, and I'm going to show my gray hair age here. We will sell no wine before it's time. And I have no idea what wine product that was. Maybe I'm giving a sense of the important things in my life when I talk about that. But the reality is you need to not cheapen yourself by reacting too quickly to off-the-cuff requests by the customer or perceived requests that really weren't requests. Do you really need to deliver a quotation now? Well, if the customer didn't specifically say, we're done, we think that it's between you and another guy, and we need to now kind of go into what does this pricing look like and how's that work? If they didn't specifically tell you that, then you probably are too early. If you are dropping a quote off, like so often happens on LinkedIn, hurry up and sign up for this because it'll save you $100, and you don't even know who I am yet. So all of those requests that we're getting on LinkedIn or in your email, we need to be very careful that we don't devalue ourselves by acting like cheap sales guys. You don't want to be in the situation where you are the same as Herb from WKRP in Cincinnati, where all he was doing is running around being a glad handler. It was a bad look for our industry, the sales industry, and we really need to focus on how do we add value to our client? How do we understand where they're at? And just because we think we're ready to drop a quote off doesn't mean we should. And we really need to understand how are we being graded. Think of it a little bit like your kid is in class, start of the year, and the teacher says, okay, this is how I'm going to grade you. I'm going to make you go through tests that I'm not going to tell you what value each test is on the final grade. I'm going to make you do homework, and I'm not going to tell you if you do the homework or you don't do the homework helps you get a good grade. I'm going to grade your participation in class, but I'm not going to tell you if that's going to help you either. And at the end of the semester, the quarter, the year, I'm just going to give you a grade, whatever I feel you deserve. That would not be a situation that most students that want to do well in that class would think would be fair. They don't know how they're being graded. Don't give a proposal before you know how that proposal is going to be received. By understanding what is my buyer, what is my customer going through, and how are they going to go through it, then you start to figure out that last step, that substantiate. Did we really substantiate in this organization what is value in that organization, and how is that organization going to grade our product and our proposal?
Sean, when I'm thinking about all the people that we interact with, a lot of our initial conversations with salespeople and sales leaders starts out with something like, hey, I've got a deal that is stuck, overdue, running long, never seems to get to the next stage. And part of our commercial teaching is we break those down. If you're a salesperson or sales leader with that pipeline issue, let's paint a picture here. Like you said, for salespeople to go look at their pipeline and look at what could be moved. If you've got a deal that you've proposed, you sent the proposal document ready for signature, and it's been outstanding for more than a week, you've probably got a problem there, which means you need to retrace your steps with that specific deal. And if history's a great teacher here, everybody listening to this probably has had a few of these and may still have some of those sitting out now for months. And they're still in the propose and close stage or the terms and conditions stage or the negotiation stage, whatever your stage is there. Go back to those deals and see if they're really stuck, if they're gone, if they were defunded. Go ask the hard question. Go for no on those, because that's where you're going to get the most traction. You may surprise yourself. You may realize that somebody meant to say yes or thought they said yes, or they were just waiting on you to respond. Turns out they never signed the contract. These are the opportunities across, and find ourselves saying, we can make an immediate impact to the revenue, to the get more, I want more. We can help you, but you've got to be intentional in the way you sell. Two Tall Guys Talking Sales is intentional in building better salespeople and sales leaders. If you got a question, ask us. We'd love to field the question with you.
It's getting close to the end of our time with you. And that was a great segue, Kevin, because we do want to hear from the people out there that are listening to our podcast. Maybe they've been our CEO workshops on LinkedIn that we put out every month. But we do want to hear from you, because we have a list, and literally, if you'd see this document, we have a list of topics that we want to talk about that's probably going to take us another 2 or 3 years. But we don't know that these are the topics that you want to listen to. If you do get a chance to drop us a note, or if you see us, if you're kind of in Cincinnati and part of our ecosystem, but if you do want to drop us a note, or if you do want to send us a message on LinkedIn or whatever, we would love to understand what bothers you, what can we give you advice on, and how can we help you be more successful, either as a salesperson, as a sales leader, or as the CFO or the CEO or the COO of a company, saying, how do I drive my sales organization to be better? We're here to help you. We tried to do these in a friendly way to make them a little bit fun, because you know what? We all want to make more money. And that's really what it's all about if you're a salesperson. Thank you very much for your time. And we look forward to catching you next week on Two Tall Guys Talking Sales.
And that's a wrap. Thanks again for joining Kevin and Sean on Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. Tune in every Tuesday, or when our podcast drops every Tuesday at 4:30, wherever you consume your podcast. And don't miss our monthly CEO workshop, where we unpack some of the big CEO questions facing your business. Until next time, we're looking forward to seeing you. Happy selling.